Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the content patch for the 13th of November 2013. My name is TotalBiscuit with today's gaming news and comment. Coming up in the show, Amazon launches a PlayStation Network store. The Witcher developer believes that publishers use DRM as a smokescreen. World of Warcraft is not built to be free to play, according to Blizzard. And the Humble Bundle also unveils its own store. All this in the OC Remix track of the day is coming your way right about now. Amazon has unveiled a PlayStation Network store, which will allow you to purchase PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and PS Vita titles in their digital form outside of the PlayStation Network. The store essentially gives you a code, which you can then use on PSN for a digital download, and is also offering $5 of PlayStation Network credit back on specific titles. They're claiming that they will be mirroring all of the deals that will be available on PlayStation Network. However, they will also be offering exclusive deals in collaboration with Sony. Well, this is a bit of an unexpected move for a number of different reasons, but in my opinion, a positive one. I've been concerned for quite some time that the inevitable transition to digital-only titles on consoles would result in an obvious monopoly based on whatever store it happens that the console manufacturers wanted to run. This would have effectively shut out all retail partners and put all of the eggs into that one particular basket. Now, as it stands, that's still to some degree the case. The codes still have to go through PlayStation Network in a similar way to stuff like Green Man Gaming codes going through Steam. However, it does at least give you an option as to where to buy, and they are saying, yes, there will be exclusive deals. I had to wonder how reliant those deals are actually going to be, however, on Sony. I would imagine pretty damn reliant. They have got to be very closely tied to Sony's system and their pricing model, so I can't really expect a bunch of ludicrous discounts, and more to the point, there's still not that much competition. I think it is a good step forward, however, because it does demonstrate the willingness of Sony to actually allow other retailers to get in on the digital act as opposed to actually holding onto it 100% for themselves. It's convenient for consumers for a number of different reasons. Maybe they use an Amazon credit card and they want to get money back on that. They could do that, for instance. Maybe they have Amazon credit or an Amazon gift card and would prefer to get the digital version rather than having to wait for the boxed version to ship. As it stands, they're not going to be saving too much on it. If we look at the current prices and we actually try and figure out if there's any difference, well, the answer is very clearly no. The codes for Battlefield 4 and Call of Duty Ghosts for PlayStation 3 are currently $59.96. Same with Black Flag and things like that. So you're not actually saving anything outside of the $5 of PSN credit. However, I suppose it's possible that that could change later down the line. It doesn't seem that likely, though. That seems to be the price of games at this point, and console manufacturers are unwilling to go for the kind of deep discounts that we see on PC, and one of the primary reasons for that is a simple lack of competition. You don't need to do those deep discounts. And more to the point, if you did it online, then your retail partners get pissed off, and at the moment, the majority of games on console are still bought in boxes. You can't sever the connection with retail partners because that would kill your machine. They would love to, though. They absolutely would, and eventually it will happen. The question is how long it will actually take. This is a small step forward, and it's also sort of a middle ground. It's not ditching the retail partner, but it is saying, look, you're not going to be selling physical stuff anymore. You're going to be selling this code. I can't see them really complaining. I mean, that sounds like a fantastic idea. They don't even have to store the box. That in itself is great. They don't have to ship it. They don't have to deal with handling it. It's just more convenient. They could entirely automate their code system. They don't even need people to move stuff around. So it's a win for everybody as far as I'm concerned, and I would expect a similar thing to come out from Microsoft as well. However, since they are the only retailer to actually be able to do this at the moment, the competition issue certainly still stands. Will we see competition to Amazon in this space? We might, but Sony will have to actually set up that level of partnership, and I have to wonder what benefits Amazon gets and how hard Amazon is going to push this, because if they are very much in bed with Sony at this point, then I can't really expect there to be a huge variety of stores very soon that can also offer exactly the same thing. I also want to see if we do get those deep discounts. They're talking about exclusive discounts, but I wonder just how far it will go and whether anything will ever become Steam-like when it comes to consoles with those 75% off or more discounts and the really big long tail on the actual sales themselves. Marcin Nowinski, the CEO of CD Projekt Red, has come out and said in an interview with Giant Bomb that he believes DRM is nothing but a smokescreen. He is quoted as saying that it seems the industry as a whole knows DRM doesn't work, but corporations will still use it as a smokescreen, effectively covering their asses and pretending to protect their intellectual property in front of bosses, investors, and shareholders. He goes on to say that policy trumps common sense, and the best interest of gamers is lost in the process. This is of course a follow-up to the announcement that Witcher 3 would be 100% DRM free on PC at launch, and he went on to claim that the game will not be pirated more than if they had actually put DRM on it, because every game's DRM is cracked on day 0 or even before then, so it's not really an argument for using it. He went on to also claim that they were trying to build trust between them and gamers, which has certainly been a policy of CD Projekt for the longest time, both with Witcher 2 and, of course, with GOG. I don't know if that's 100% true. I'm okay with the idea that they're building trust between gamers. That's obviously the case, but the idea that every DRM is cracked on day 0 is not actually true. And there are games whereby it has taken some time for it to happen. We're not talking about the basic stuff like, say, Securorom or some of the older versions of Star Force or things like that. That's not what this is about. When you see DRM these days, you are talking about partial online systems, which are much harder to get around and take a lot more time. SimCity was not cracked on day 1. Diablo 3 was not cracked on day 1. StarCraft 2 was not cracked on day 1, and there are plenty of other examples of games that were in fact not cracked prior to the launch or on the day of launch. It is disingenuous to suggest otherwise. If it were a few years ago, before these systems really came to the fore, I would have said, yes, you're right, that stuff gets cracked very easily. But lately, the form of DRM that we've been looking at has involved partial connectivity requirements, and those are a lot harder to get around. And yes, I'm sorry, but they do work to some degree. I hate that they work to some degree, I really do, because I am fundamentally against any kind of online requirement when you're not doing free-to-play games. You can see the reason with free-to-play and multiplayer only, obviously. But looking at the other stuff, no. SimCity's online-only justification was BS. The Diablo 3 online-only justification, also BS. StarCraft 2, I mean, I've hated that for the longest time. The fact that there's been a lack of LAN mode is something that I have repeatedly said is terrible and has actively hurt the competitive scene as we know it. But please, let's not pretend that these methods were not effective, at least in some way. Did they increase sales? Possibly. It's the desperation idea. It's impatience. That's what DRM exploits. It's not designed to stop piracy. It's designed to slow it down long enough for a certain subset of gamers to get impatient and buy it. These are the guys they're trying to convert. The sort of casual pirates. They're the guys that don't hardcore pirate everything, but if they can get it for free, maybe they will. The guys that are going to pirate everything are not going to buy your game anyway, yeah? Those are the guys that DRM is supposedly against. You know, that's the kind of PR side of it, that's the smokescreen. But in reality, the guys it's actually dealing with are the casual pirates. Yes, companies know that eventually something's going to get pirated. And I also believe that they know that there are some guys that simply cannot be converted to paying customers. But DRM focuses on the guys that can, and unfortunately it focuses in a negative way. Yeah, you can convert those people to paying customers through the methods that CD Projekt are using, and Valve as well, by saying, look, this is an easier way, we've got better discounts, we've got better service. Yeah, piracy is very much a service problem. Or you can do it through DRM, which is the negative way, which actually affects your legitimate customers. Guess which one I prefer? Yeah, obviously. But I do believe that CD Projekt Red has been harping on the piracy thing, using it for publicity, which I'm okay with. You know, they're entirely entitled to that. But this interview in particular, I feel, was a little bit disingenuous. No, not every DRM method is cracked on day 1, and no, DRM is not entirely ineffective. It's just the methods that are effective are also anti-consumer, and as a direct result, gamers absolutely hate them. Jason Hutchins of Blizzard spoke at BlizzCon on the subject of World of Warcraft going free-to-play and stated that it was not built to be a free-to-play title. He says they're very happy with the business model that they have right now, and it's very successful, and they've also got a stable player base. World of Warcraft is not built to be free-to-play, and I think, he said, For free-to-play games to be good, they need to be built that way from the ground up, and we are not there. This follows up the announcement that the World of Warcraft subscription base had dropped to 7.6 million, although that still makes it the most subscribed MMO in the West at the moment. I don't think he's wrong. I've got to be completely honest about that. I really do not think he's wrong. I think a conversion to free-to-play would be potentially disastrous. We saw what a mess it was when they tried to do it with the Old Republic, which was basically designed as a World of Warcraft clone, and it didn't do very well. They converted it to free-to-play. It was a damn disaster, and eventually they managed to get stuff sorted out, but not without damaging their reputation and their player base even further. Converting WoW to free-to-play, I mean, think about it for a second. How on earth would you even do it? It's very, very difficult to pull that off, considering the way that you've been making your game for the past few years. There have been some subscription games that have successfully done the switch, but they have redesigned themselves significantly. Dungeons & Dragons Online Stormreach became Eberron Unlimited, which was a complete rework of the game in order to go to free-to-play. Lord of the Rings Online is probably the closest to WoW's model, but even then, significant changes were made. I don't think I'd want to see it go free-to-play, and at the moment, the game is still very popular. Come on, it's 7.6 million subs at $15 a month. It's still a massive cash cow, it's just not as crazy a cash cow as it previously was. WoW's gonna stick around for a while. People still play EverQuest, for God's sake. WoW is not really going anywhere anytime soon, but the popularity of the game is undoubtedly falling, and it's unlikely that they will be able to get it back to its former levels when it actually hit its peak in late TBC and sort of early Wrath days. They're offering a skip to 90 option, which I think is a pretty strong idea to bring some of the guys back. If you skip Pandaria like myself, I'm gonna be honest, I was a little tempted to go back just because I could skip all the way to 90 and I could just try and experience the new content, but ultimately it is not a game that I'm all that interested in anymore, and I think I've got past the phase of really needing a questing MMO. It's a massive time sink. I would never be able to do it with my current business model, and ultimately I want to have a family life and a social life, and that's not going to happen if I get back into World of Warcraft, considering my current workload. I'm glad that they realize it's not going to work as free-to-play, though. Funnily enough, it is a game whereby they have flaunted the ideas of free-to-play but never become it. I have said time and again that I genuinely believe the amount they charge for server transfers and renames and things like that is abhorrent. And I also hate the fact that they make items to sell in the game when they also charge a subscription. They double dip, and they get away with it, and that infuriates me. Because other games, like, say, The Secret World, didn't get away with it. They didn't. They got crucified for that, and yet Blizzard gets to sell mounts for $25 a piece and develop stuff outside of the subscription, which I'm not okay with. Look, as far as I'm concerned, you do subscription and expansions, or you do free-to-play. You do not do both. You do not sell stuff for microtransactions when you already charge $15 a month. That should give me access to everything that you develop outside of expansion packs as long as I'm good enough to get it. Always believed that, will continue to believe that till the end of my bloody days. And finally, the Humble Bundle has unveiled its so-called Humble Store, which is something a little bit more traditional, which allows you to buy games and also give 10% of the money to charity. They've unveiled their split and told you exactly how much will be going to the devs, and they're running a set of 24-hour sales with some fairly ridiculous deals, so I'd suggest that you head on over to humblebundle.com/store to check them out. They claim that 10% of the money will go to charity, and they are showing the American Red Cross Child's Play, the EFF, World Land Trust, and Charity Water as options. They are also then giving 75% to the creator and 15% as a humble tip. The store will be offering games for the following formats: PC, Mac, Linux, and Android, and claim they will be adding new titles on a daily basis. The store is very much web-based without a client, and as I said, you can go check it out at humblebundle.com/store. This is a little bit strange, isn't it, honestly, because Humble Bundle has been focusing on the notion of the pay-what-you-want idea for the longest time. The Humble Store is not that. They certainly have the infrastructure to make it work, and they're primarily selling stuff like, say, Steam keys for the most part. But this is not what they're known for, honestly, and this is rather surprising, to say the least, that they would go down this particular route. It's certainly not their strength, and I wonder if it will end up diluting the brand overall. I hope not, because both the Humble Bundle and the Humble weekly sales have been doing really well and do great things for developers. It's awesome for devs to actually have the option to create something along those lines, but even though 10% of this goes to charity, it is a little bit more of a traditional model, and that just doesn't smell right to me. I know, I don't really have much of a reason beyond that. Now, if you look at this objectively, you say, all right, well, this is great for consumers, it's great for devs. I mean, they're offering a 75% split, which is pretty good. I mean, that is slightly better than what I've heard quoted for Steam, for the most part. It's not massively more, especially considering they're giving 10% to charity, but Humble is taking less. But admittedly, they also don't really have to deal too much with downloads. There are some, but for the most part, they're just giving out Steam keys, so that's not really all that difficult. I'm glad to see more competition in the PC space, and some of these deals are clearly exclusives. I mean, I'm looking at the stuff right now. I don't really want to read it off because you'll be disappointed that it's not there tomorrow, but some of this stuff is discounted heavily, and this is the kind of stuff you can't find on Steam. I think more competition for Steam is certainly a good thing, and lately we have been seeing Steam sales get progressively worse over time, and I wonder if we'll actually get to the point where Steam is just the place where you download your stuff, and you end up buying the keys from a bunch of other retailers. I think that would actually be a very healthy thing to do, but I doubt we'll get there anytime soon. So, it just doesn't quite sit all that well with me that they're actually doing this, but I don't have any real objective reasons against it, so you can pretty much ignore my opinion on that, and you should go and check it out and see what's going on. Obviously, I can't object at all to the notion of some of that money going to charity, especially since my favorite charity, Charity Water, is on the list of those they are supporting. I'm really glad that they have branched out outside of Child's Play and the EFF, even though they both do good work. I'm particularly passionate about the work of Charity Water, so it's nice to have the options there. Alright folks, that's me done for the day. Thank you very much for watching the content patch. Before I go, I'd like to give you the OC Remix track of the day. I've got something from Bionic Commando for you. Certainly a classic, and it's remixed by Sir Nuts. It's a really nice trance remix of the Bionic Commando theme all the way back from 1988. This one just came out a couple of days ago, and I enjoyed the drum line of this in particular, so hopefully you will too. You can download it for free in the description below this video, and I will see you next time.